recall the impact of transport policy of the Kyiv City State Administration air pollution in town. The situation with the smoke and this not for the first time when there is problem in Kyiv with smoke. And according to state information, the nitrogen oxide concentration increased, and there were other substances that also exceeded the limits in Verbytskyi and Bludsha Ukrainka and near other highways. But today we are not only speaking about smoke, because this is the topping of the iceberg. And in Kyiv, the situation is not good with ecology, and concentration of these substances is increased in some periods of the year, and we see that the contamination increases. And today we are going to speak about how to improve the situation, not only concentrating of the issues of smog. The transport constitute 80% of pollution of air, and Dmitry Derevyanko told that we have 100% connection between between transport and the contamination of air. And this was provided by the state official responsible for these issues. We, as representatives of NGO, we see the problem not only in transport itself, but also transport policy that gives priority to transport and do not pay enough attention to ecology and health of residents. The Institute of Sociology and I+S company provide information that only 21% of households possess cars, and 80% of pollution results in suffering on 100% of residents. And today we have representatives of NGOs who work on the concept of sustainable mobility and green development of the city, representative of Observatoire, and also the representative of city administration, Mr. Mazev, will join us soon. How we can change our priorities in order to improve environment situation and health of residents. And now I would like to, we have Maryna Bludsha, Kyiv Cyclists Association, Ivan Verbytskyi, and Alessandra CEDOS, online magazine on the city life, and Volodymyr Vysotskyi, coordinator of the Fund of Jewish Social Initiative that deals with the social reintegration of elderly people, Storchylo, National Ecological Center of Ukraine, Nina Vitrivna Rotach, head of the Laboratory for Monitoring Level of Air Pollution, Central Geophysical Laboratory, and Fedorovska Kapitolina Evgenievna, a professional chemist, is also from the center, and we are waiting for Sergiy Mayzel, head of transport infrastructure of city administration, and we wait for Sergiy, and we will discuss these issues a little bit later. And we start with the issues of health and presentation of Volodymyr Vysotskyi, because now in European and world leading towns, the health is given priority. Urban health is considered, and now we will get information why it is important to have such priorities in the development of the city. This information will be provided by Volodymyr Vysotskyi. First, I would like to thank organizers for this event, because this issue is acute. These problems should be solved not as urgent, but on a systemic level. There is a trend for the past 10 years. There is a term such as urban health. This term is not widely known, but I hope that they will incorporate this term. And we are speaking about special landscape created by people that helps to develop healthy lifestyle for residents. So what is the relation between city planning, urban development, and public health? It was believed previously that urban development is some combination, and the architect always tries to find balance between architecture and lifestyle and health, and we see that the cities are the centers of health sphere. We know that people take care of their health, but the system started in the middle of the 19th century, and the Industrial Revolution caused migration to the city that led to overpopulation and also the development of some infectious diseases, and even people threw waste just in the streets, and there were many problems, and people decided to create water supply, good ventilation, building broad streets. So if we can see it on the example of Paris, then Howard published the book Towns and Gardens of the Future. He is speaking about wonderful towns and cities, nice infrastructure, people who live happily in good relation with nature. Le Corbusier worked also on this topic. He believed that there should be new conditions and new infrastructure, and he believed that Paris should be turned into a gigantic garden. So he wanted to leave only 5% of buildings, but they should be huge. The increase in car ownership also caused pollution. So people had many problems with their health because of this, and now people think how to establish systemic relations between urban development and the health of people. In 1999, the World Health Organization established some priorities in sustainable development and also environment protection and urban development and transport. At the beginning of the 21st century, architects started to think how to make our environment more healthy. They were speaking about natural landscapes and good natural materials, but maybe there can be some other negative factors that can cause problems. And first, specialists, they understood that while making urban planning, they should take into account psychological, social, and cultural aspects of the life of people, because lacking of these parameters can bring dangerous consequences that would threaten the system of urban life. Comparing the challenges of 20th and 21st century, we see sharp change. In 19th century, there were some infectious diseases, and sewage and pure water were important, and now we see some other problems connected also with chronic diseases, obesity, some psychological problems. So we should improve environment, have to improve public transport, to introduce cycling and also different facilities. And this is the general overview. So these chronic diseases, this is not good for the economy of the city, because people, they do not like to live in such conditions. Then there is a huge load on the system of public health and even on private structures, so people pay for this. And also decreased so people die young, or they become disabled, so some negative trends appear. So what should we do? First of all, we should understand the correlation between the environment and our health. We should study it at the multidisciplinary level, and we should establish cooperation of all stakeholders between designers, doctors, and others. Also, we should analyze and gather scientific data that we should use. Fourth, we should also understand the complexity of the issue, but we shouldn't be afraid of it. We should understand multifactorial influence, and it means that we need more people, different specialists to solve this problem. And lastly, we should understand that we should establish a dialogue between activists, between power organizations, and also the citizens. Le Corbusier told that automobile killed large city and the automobiles should save it. He told this to the industrialists when he was redesigning Paris. So we hope that the automobiles would save Kyiv, not kill it. Thank you.
We have a question to you, Volodymyr. In the modern Kyiv, whether psychological and physiological problems of residents are taken into account sufficiently, I can say about elderly people residing in Kyiv and near it. Elderly persons, they feel this negative impact very much in elementary issues of accessibility. It's adaptability to people who needs more attention. Our society is not ready. It is just entering this stage of readiness to have attitudes to this people with special needs, such as elderly people and disabled people. In other societies, these people are not marginalized, they are in focus. So from the Soviet people from the Soviet times, we have such heritage that urban environment was created for healthy people, and for those persons who are disabled or elderly, who have special needs, for them urban environment is inaccessible and unfriendly. These things, they are fundamental, because then the persons with special needs get distressed and closed in his own shell inside his flat. So this is the problem, how residential blocks of flats, blocks of buildings are distributed around the city, and different facilities are located. Most of people live on the left bank, and they should pass through the bridges every day to go to the right bank. Then anyway we will have these jams and this road traffic intensity. And now we will go to the numbers and values. The most suffering groups of population are elderly persons and persons with special needs, disabled persons, so, and also low-income persons. But we should focus on people who are elder than 25 years old. Now urban environment is created with orientation on 25-year-old guys. What concerns dynamics of contamination in Kyiv during this year and in recent years? What is the main cause of smog? This is the second question. And the third question, what is required for measurement center to improve its activities? We are representatives of Central Geophysical Laboratory, and the contamination measurement system has started development since 2005. There are 16 stationary centers located in 8 regions of the city of Kyiv, and monitoring is conducted on both banks of the river Dnieper. 16 centers of measurement, they are located along the highways, but center number 2 is located near residential houses where people live. At Dovzhenka Street. The center number 1 is on the territory of children hospital, and atmospheric air is contaminated there as well. And on Abalon Avenue, the residential houses also are located nearby where Kievites live. Besides the posts located along highways, there are also posts in the backyards of buildings and in the parks. For example, in Nauki Avenue. If we compare the contamination on center number 5 and at Bessarabska Square, the difference is huge. The fifth post is relatively clean. Concentrations are far less. We have also the center in Hydra Park in the green zone, but not far from the large bridge where lots of where a very intensive road traffic is in place. This post also demonstrate exceeded exceedances on maximum threshold values. We have the center near the National Exhibition Center, and the concentrations are far lower than at the posts which measure the values near the most intensive highways. Yes, the speaker was true. Very many cars pass from the left to the right bank of the river. If there are no traffic jams, if the bridges are several layers ones, then the contamination without those traffic jams would be lower. So designers should think of that in advance. Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine and the European capital, so we should build highways of high standard, so that they do not cause jams when cars pass from the left bank to the right bank of the river. Every day you go to work and you look into the gas maps whether there are jams on this bridge or that bridge. All this means the contamination of air. Whether people should go every day by cars from the left to the right bank, because our city is not intended on just passing from one bank of the river to the other. This is a question to the administration of the city. Relevant authorities should think of that. We have underground, which is a fast type of transport. Parking lots should be built near the underground stations so that people leave their cars near the stations. Let's then return to the issue why smog appears in Kyiv and what is the contamination during the year. And we looked into the environmental encyclopedia. It goes that smog is an aerosol which is composed of dust, smoke and contaminants, and it appears in the air due to meteorological conditions, inversions in the near ground layers of atmosphere. Kyiv smog is similar to Los Angeles one, and it is formed when the temperature is over 30 degrees above zero. And it consists of such gases which are evaporated. Formaldehyde as a result of secondary contamination when solar irradiation is intense, and it accumulates on the streets of the sea, and it causes irritation of eyes and skin for human being, and also greenery. In Kyiv there were no complaints for health in the last days of July. The contamination was high, it was visible. As concerned the index of atmospheric contamination, Mostly in winter time the contamination is lower. In summertime, starting with spring, the contamination increases, and when the weather is dry and hot, the contamination sometimes is very high. High contamination was in Kyiv in March and June. It was because of high temperatures and low intensity of rainfalls. And also because of lack of wind, which also contribute to stand still here. And now presentation of Ivan Verbytskyi. He was one of the first persons who wrote materials about smog.
We have several problems in our city. The first problem is air pollution. We are speaking about it, and this problem is caused 80% by cars. And the next problem is limited space, especially in the center of the city. We know that Kyiv is a historian city, and we have limited space that can be used to play, and we can see that all the space is used by cars. We have walls of building, then there are cars, and you can squeeze between, and there are roads, then there is small space, and all the space is used by cars. Whether it is good or bad, I do not know, but the fact is, now, with this amount of car, we do not have enough space. All the space is used by cars. It results in the fact that our city is not comfortable. If you go to the squares, central squares of our cities, the place for city life, for some festivals, this is the best areas of the city, but these places are used for cars. There are highways that go through the quarters of the city, and all these crossings, they make our city less and less comfortable, especially for people who are elderly or disabled. And also this is the issue of social inequality. And we understand that public transport is connected, of course, with the economy, and people, they who are the vulnerable categories, they cannot buy cars and they use public transport, but they are still forced to wait in traffic jams. So people with low mobility, pensioners, small children who cannot drive cars for objective reasons, they have limited capabilities. They do not get priority in the city. And of course, there are problems in all cities of the world, and there are three ways how the situation is going to develop. So the number of cars will increase, and there are forces who want to increase the number of cars. Deputy head of city administration want to adopt a program that the number of cars will double in the city, but where they are going to be and what smoke will be in 10 years if all these cars will be in the streets. And second, we should build infrastructure and to create alternatives. We should build parking lots, and different facilities for cars, and also we should develop public transport and infrastructure for cyclists, and this option is better than the previous one. We will create some quality alternative, but at the same time that wouldn't give us opportunity to solve existing problems, the problem of absence of free space, and we can build a tunnel above or under a highway, but I don't believe that this is good for the center of the city, for example, or for example about tunnels underground. It's expensive, and the third option, leading countries of the world use it. So this is sustainable mobility, and here we say, okay, we have a threshold for this contamination. We have some limited space in our city. We have some level of comfort we should assure for our residents, and considering these factors, we have limited resources that we should share according to our priorities. First, these are the people who are disabled, pedestrians, cyclists, public transport, and at the last place, automobiles. So the high priority should be given to people with disability, then pedestrians, then cyclists, people who use public transport, and if we have some space, if we have some threshold limits of pollution, if we have some opportunities, only then we can do something for automobile owners. So what it means in practice? It means that we should adopt a plan of sustainable mobility, and I know that you work on this, and we want to help you with this because we all live in the city, and we should get united in order to introduce real changes. We do not criticize each other. We are not enemies. We should unite, otherwise we won't succeed. We should introduce changes in the master plan, and of course construction norms and other norms should be changed. What should be done in practice? These are strategic documents that will provide change in several years. And every day now we have some situations in the streets. The changes are made in a weird way when, for example, Shevchenko Boulevard or streets in Podol, they are reconstructed, but there are no priorities for disabled and pedestrians. We cannot see that the situation improves in this respect. And it would be really desirable that in each street that we reconstruct, there should be a special area for cyclists, and then the interests of automobilists should be taken into account. And the situation, for example, in Krещатик Street, and there are even some structures, fences, and this is a symbolic step, but the symbolic step shows who is the main, who has the priority in the city. And the problem with parking, we see different barriers, they solve some things, and we should also promote public transport. They say that we have enough infrastructure for this, and also situation should become more comfortable for people, And people who drive cars, they should understand that cars are dead end, and they make our city uncomfortable and take a lot of public space. And if they have alternative, they will maybe use public transport or a bike, and it is done in Paris, Amsterdam, and in other leading cities of the world. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ivan. I would like to summarize it. On the one hand, our top officials declare this values priority of bicycles, pedestrians, but according to the documents, the number of automobiles in Kiev have increased. So lack of consistency in this issue is observed, and now we pass to the presentation of Sergiy Mayzel, Director of Transport Infrastructure Department of Kyiv City State Administration. He is in this office not so long time. We hope that he has progressive views and he will improve performance of his department in future. After that, we will have Maria Bludsha and Maria Storchylo as speakers. Maryna, you are welcome. We give you the floor. In my brief presentation, I would like to return to decontamination issue and climate change globally. I would like to provide you information about other cities and other countries' lessons learned and what NGO propose to do in such situations like similar to the situation in our city. Road traffic share in contamination of the city is the highest. The trends are visible. The cars number in cities will be increasing in future, and the administrations of cities, they will be centered and oriented on road traffic. So representatives of local authorities and national authorities, there is connection. The more cars, the better the welfare of population. But most European cities, they demonstrate quite contrary situation. WHO say that where the incomes are higher, the contamination of cities is lower, and smog. We should not wait till people start falling because of the contamination. This situation which we experience today, it could not be resolved just by spraying some water on the asphalt on the streets. So comfortable cities, comfortable urban environment, this is where we should want to get, what we should to achieve. This is not short-term water pouring on the streets. This after 3 years or 5 years, the roads will become intensified again, even if we now make them broader. So we should stop to be automobile centric. We should use public transport, and we should monitor private car use. There are some steps that have already been done by Kyiv administration, city's administration, but those steps are not very reasonable in technical terms, and violations of those rules, they are not monitored as well. On the other hand, infrastructure for cyclists should develop. I would like to focus attention also on limitation on the number of cars in the urban environment in such cities, for example, as London, Stockholm, Gothenburg. They introduced the fare for entering the city, and they obtained very good results. As concerns greenhouse gas emissions, they decrease them by 25%, and also several other advantages have been achieved. The U.S. researchers say that public transport has hidden advantages where people can use cafes or other social facilities when they go by public transport. This would be beneficial for local authorities. So the situation should be approached in a reasonable ways and in a reasonable manner, and alternatives should be developed for a person either to go on foot, to use bicycle where relevant bicycle infrastructure is in place, or to use his own car. Alternatives should be provided. Thank you. It was Maria Storchylo from National Ecological Center of Ukraine. Now we give the floor to Maryna Bludsha from Kyiv Cyclists Association. I represent Kyiv Cyclists Association. I would like to tell you in brief what benefits bicycles may contribute to improvement of the atmospheric air contamination. If all cyclists will use their bicycles, I will tell you about the capitals where there are not so good cycling infrastructures. I'm not talking about cyclist capitals such as Antwerp or Amsterdam. Once the infrastructure for bicycles was introduced in other ordinary capitals, the greenhouse gas emissions decreased by 18%. This proves that investments into the cycling infrastructure are beneficial for city administrations. They are beneficial because they decrease air pollution. When someone says that cycling infrastructure is expensive, this is a myth. It will be under 1 billion, the same as building two Pocztowa squares infrastructure. Sometimes this is just drawing special lanes, but not building them. There are different types of bicycle infrastructure, bicycle traffic infrastructure. In the European countries, the traffic speed is under 50 hours, 50 kilometers per hour. The fines, penalties, they remain only in Russia and some other countries. So bicycle and infrastructure for cyclists, this is not expensive. In Kiev we do not have bicycle infrastructure concept. The recommendations have been developed for designers and there is a set of measures for promoting cycling. We need promotion of bicycle transport, and this is our task, the task of our NGO, Kyiv Cyclists Association. We can't build the infrastructure, but we can promote cycling. Kyiv doesn't have the concept, and it didn't have the program in 2008, and in 2009 it was approved. It was planned to build 17 cyclist routes, but in fact only 5 were built in 2010 through 2012. The construction continues from Tryeshina to the center of Kiev to downtown. The building continues. Some stations for bicycles also are being built. The parking lots for cyclists are being open. This process is ongoing, and you know that bicycles now can be rented. Such opportunity was lacking previously, but the initiative still doesn't enjoy wide support, but there are more bicycles in the streets of Kiev by 10% during weekdays and by 30% during days off. But without good, well-developed infrastructure, Kiev can't become the cyclist capital. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Maryna. And now the presentation of Mr. Sergiy Mayzel, Director of Transport Infrastructure Department of Kyiv City State Administration. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I would like to thank you for inviting me to this event. This event is very much required both for NGOs and city administration. We can discuss here the issues of transportability in Kiev. We know it is not a secret that there are problems in the city of Kiev, that such transport policy of sustainable mobility are lacking for the city of Kiev. I started working in this office as the deputy mayor for transport. We have developed the concepts from the time when I started working. And we should be oriented not on wider use of automobiles, road vehicles. Ivan already pinpointed all the issues, and I'm glad that civil society support the administration of Kiev. Ivan told that there are problems, and there is chaos in the streets and the areas near buildings, adjacent to buildings. The situation will be improved soon because during the last months we installed 2,000 semi-spheres for the road vehicles to use payments for tourists, not to use payments for tourists, and people with children can go along the streets without the threat from automobiles. Starting with 2010 and ending with today, we analyzed the development of the city, and we found that indeed, the development was focused not on pedestrians but on development of road traffic and building some boutiques and other sales outlets. So we started working with civil society. Here you can see many people who are stakeholders in drafting our documents. Now we have the policy of sustainable mobility of the city of Kyiv, and we invite energetic and initiative enthusiastic civil society organizations, NGOs, to draft in this document. This is a huge document to be drafted, and it needs involvement on some financial institutions so that it could become the basis for like a constitution for our city. The next point, we understand clearly that our city should be oriented to pedestrians, then to cyclists, and after that for road traffic moving, and only after that for the vehicles which at the parking lots, stay at the parking lot. So the initiative of our municipal authorities was to draft the document, the main principles of transport policy in Kyiv. The group of Kyiv administration, Kyiv council deputies gathered, and we started to work with the Verkhovna Rada in order to introduce the changes to the laws on parking lots, on public transport, about a single tickets for public transport. We should change every law, and we should lobby MPs that this is required, this is needed, not only for one city of Kyiv, but for other cities and towns, and it would be beneficial for comfort of populations, of residents of those cities. Unfortunately, economy has impact on policy, and then we get such outcomes as we have now. The plan of sustainable urban mobility till 2030, I told you about it already. It would be developed by 2030. This is a document without which investors can't enter Ukraine. Why no changes in attraction of investors because we don't have ordinary document, plan of sustainable urban mobility approved by Kyiv Council. The working group has already been formed, and you are invited as stakeholders to take part in the discussions and consultations to make your contributions to drafting this document. I also would like to tell you about the current projects which we are going to launch and which we have already launched. The limitation of private car entrance to the pavements. Special devices were installed all over the city to prevent cars from using the pavement, which is intended on pedestrians. We started working on approval of the strategy of bicycle traffic infrastructure. We found engineers from other cities of Ukraine who are initiative and enthusiastic and are willing to contribute into development of bicycle routes in Kyiv. People from the western Ukraine come to us because it is simple to draw a route on the map, but to embody such a design into reality, it is quite hard. It should also be approved by all agencies. But the main point is to ensure safety for cyclists, creating some route for cyclists. We should understand our responsibility. We shall be liable for every cyclist using this route. His or her safety. The next point, we started working on promoting public transport use along with World Bank experts and A+C company. We have completed a large project. The research into sustainable development of urban transport. We now can analyze whether some junctions should be located. About 50% of junctions in Kyiv are inefficient. We understood that upon we get the capability to analyze them thanks to this project. Today the stereotypes has changed. The ground transport is much more efficient currently. Kyiv Trans company now have passenger
програми, які будуть впроваджені, це з тими же спеціалістами Світового банку. Ми розробили таку концепцію, що
with the experts of the World Bank, we developed the concept, the BRT system for fast trams and trolleybuses was developed. There are routes which would carry up to 80,000 persons a day. The same work is now ongoing in the tram companies. Swiss experts came, company Stadler, free of charge, help us now. We calculate a tram, a multifunctional tram which can use both tram tracks and railway tracks. This way we will join right bank of the river with the left bank of the river. Because the left and right banks should be connected better. And in technological terms, the trams should be repaired in special companies. We will just use those railway tracks to bring trams for repair. These routes will carry 2,000 passengers a year. 200,000 passengers a year, just like underground. Of course, I support the underground transport development. It is a high contribution to the economy of the city. At least one underground station should be built a year, but there are other alternatives to be used. Our passengers should enjoy also other modes of transport. Any trip should be no longer than 45 minutes. Every person should understand that within 45 minutes they can get from point A to point B in the city of Kyiv. So high quality transport and stops should be organized. And our tasks, our objectives are to develop both cyclist infrastructure, pedestrian facilities, and so on. All those stories, they are important. We should also build interchange station, and we should
also there should be parking lots, they should be comfortable, and they should work in the system of public transport. There should be transportation that exists in Europe where it is comfortable to travel around city. There are several novelties that we want to introduce that will be in 2017. We would like to make Podol area a pedestrian area, and also to replace tramways in Верхний and Nizhny Val, Glebochitska Street, Dmitrievska Street, Frunze Street. So the pedestrian area in Sagaidachny Street, it should be active, and Podil area is the heart of Kyiv City, and we understand that there we can invite tourists there, and we can start a sightseeing tour with a Podol that preserve its historic look. About Krещатик Street, Бассейна Street, that is from Krещатик Street, how it is called correctly, Bessarabska Square. You want that it should be pedestrian square, and it should be comfortable for our tourists. There are many programs, many ideas. Join us. There are many people who are active participants, and we invite them in our team. Let's do our city. Let's make our city comfortable. Thank you very much. And I give the floor to our audience. Now the first question. Please introduce yourself first. Good afternoon. Sergey Shelkunov, public activist. I have several questions. Is there any coordination between Department of City Administration? You say that pedestrians are the key, the key priority, but there is plastic wall near Bessarabska Square, and I think that there is lack of communication inside city administration. And in Berlin, they now do not want to separate special lines for cyclists, because if they are separated, they the city. So maybe we should establish better communication between them, and also maybe it's easy for you to speak about it while driving your Ferrari. So we can ask about cyclists, but firstly I would like to say about lack of communication between departments. We started the work with communal enterprises that worked on transport infrastructure, and we understood that inside transport department and communal departments there was lack of communication. As Ivan told us, Taras Shevchenko Boulevard, the street was renewed, but when we came to accept, we saw that there are no crossings, and even in pedestrian area, even benches were not renewed. So many other things were not done. So we started active work, and streets will be accepted only when every requirement will be met. And there are public activists at the department, and there are special structure under the department, and they will also take part in this process. And also the situation is changed in the department. We work now with communal enterprises, we communicate, and the work that was started, we hope that the results will be seen in 2017, and there will be new projects that will meet all world requirements. And should we build the infrastructure for cycling? In my opinion, you told about Germany, and there they build and continue to build infrastructure for cyclists. This is an evolutionary change, Everyone understands that this should be, but in order to undergo this evolutionary way, we should see the experience of other countries. People start to understand that ecology should be a priority and health of a person should be a priority. And we should go along evolutionary way, step by step. And now I give the floor to the specialist in this area. I thank him, and I want to add, for Berlin, these issues are acute to build this kind of infrastructure. But for Kyiv, the question is whether to build such an infrastructure. And the types of this infrastructure, they are individual for each city. There is no overall type that fits all. So in every city, we should look the situation, and each street should be considered separately. That's why the scheme is developed for cyclists, and also working groups work on this. Association of Cyclists of Kyiv included. Join us. As to the third issue, many people ask me about Ferrari. Ferrari is not a comfortable car. It's not comfortable to drive Ferrari in our streets. I have never had this Ferrari. This is a photo on Facebook. People just say that I have this car. So I know everything about Ferrari now because of that. Please introduce yourself first.
Yulia Makluk, International Environmental NGOs 350 org. Thank you to the organizers. This discussion is very high standard, and those priorities which speakers have already mentioned, they just evoke such responses. Oh my God, I don't believe this briefing takes place in Kyiv. Such humanitarian problem as climate change, it influences the issue of public transport, and the cities, they suffer from the consequences of climate change because of those road traffic emissions which happens in the cities. Our NGO is going to support climate change strategy development in Kyiv. And the question to the experts I have, how to currently the transport situation in Kyiv, including climate change, how to adapt, how to overcome the consequences of negative consequences. The climate change issue is the issue which I concern with, but I can't respond to the city's policy question. I think this one of the main questions. This question is among the principal questions. I have already talked about that in my presentation, that environment preservation should be priority number one, because this is, we should give to next generations environment which should be not worse than we received from our parents. We should have forests and lakes and so on. And now the red light is already on. The situation should be changed dramatically, and the road traffic contribute much to the pollution. So every new car appearing in the streets contribute much. So of course the priority is to promote pedestrian and cyclers traffic. As concern integration of these issues into the policy of our city, not only because of climate change consequences we experience, but also because Ukraine has commitments according to the Paris Treaty. Which says that cities should develop emissions decrease plans. So this issue should be addressed in the framework of our international commitments. First of all, I would like to join Yulia and to thank the organizers of this briefing, Maxim Kozub, a translator, interpreter, and also a member of Cyclists Association. The first question is to Mr. Mayzel. We have always been talking about strategies, principles, pillars. Your chief, Ilya Sagaidak, said that in May this year these principles of Kyiv policy would be approved. Maybe I have missed something, but I have not found any decision or any publication where such transport strategy would be articulated and approved finally. Could you tell us what we should orient to in the terms of time frame? Yes, we can talk. I hope that the policy will be approved someday, but if our policies are not implemented, then it will mean nothing. We have smog, we have half of streets where cars just park along the streets so the real situation should be controllable, because at least those regulatory requirements which are in effect, they should be complied with. I have shot video. I shot it last week in the Hyderabad, where even the state inspectorate cars violated the norms of parking. Mentality, shall we go to schools, higher educational institutions? Our association hold the competition an employee of the year. Only those who use cars, the drivers, every employee and every student's dream to have a car. So sustainable development should be promoted in educational institutions so that people have other dreams. Well, just 1 minute responses from the final question. As concerns the final question, we have developed several programs for educational institutions and libraries. In children's library, we are now building the room on road safety and public transport safety. We have also the bus library where we promote public transport among children. This is the initiative of Kyiv Trans Utility. We invite everyone to join this initiative. The first question was about the transport policy. It is almost ready. Lawyers of the Kyiv City Administration, they almost have approved it. I hope in September, if the deputies work in adequate mode, it would be approved. What are the barriers? There are no barriers. I have already told that for everyone it is important, and the situation which we faced demonstrated that we dramatically need we badly need the changes of situation in Kyiv. The cars when our Kyiv Park Service and police come to the streets, we can't tow those cars. We should change the laws. Unless the legislation is changed, we can do nothing with the cars parked in the right lanes of the roads. So we will communicate you information, and the laws should be changed and new laws should be adopted. We have 5 minutes left. Dear Mr. Mayzel, thank you for your speech. Have you already prepared the insurance fund for payments to disabled persons because the disabled persons will fall because of those your semispheres which you install? Policemen should apply penalties for those cars parked in the right lanes of the roads of the highways. Are you going to introduce some measures against those persons who at a high speed go along downtown streets? Thank you. Well, the next question, because semispheres, they are just temporary installations. I have the question to Mr. Mayzel. I represent an NGO, Public Transport Development, and I am a professor of university. This discussion didn't mention electromobiles. We took part in the action plan of sustainable development of cities, and we have the project on re-equipping some buses into electric trolleybuses. These electromobiles, they will be better than trolleybuses. Will there be some preferences adopted? Yes, there are some projects developed, but electromobiles in other countries, they're just tested. They have been in use for not longer than 5 years in other countries. The experts have already visited us. They offered to re-equip a trolleybus into an electric bus, but they have done nothing. So we invite you to visit us, and we will provide you the opportunities to re-equip trolleybuses into electric buses. And now we should end our briefing.